this happened.
I do believe I indicated to the ad hoc that at the ad hoc, this was the first time I saw this report of General Jacobs. It had not been made available to IDEC before. If my memory serves me, I do recall that that was my response, Council.
Okay, now, let's, because we are on this document, unfortunately I have to leave it for the moment and to come back to it, because I would like to know, I referred you to your statement, paragraph 8, and you don't have to go there if you can trust me to read it correctly into the record. At paragraph...
Can you display it so that at least...
Yes, that we can do. At paragraph 23 of your statement, page 7, it reads, the referral was made by Mr. Fadil Adams. It was not treated any differently. It was supervised and overseen like any other. There were 4 dockets that were relevant to the referral. Following the common established process, I sent a letter to SAP Divisional Commissioner Detectives Lieutenant General Sintumule requesting the dockets. That's what you state. You repeated that same allegation or the claim before ad hoc at page 562, having dealt with General Jacobs' report. At 562 at the bottom of the stage, about the dockets, they were requested by myself as the ID on a letter to the Divisional Commissioner Detectives General Sintumone, given that as the Divisional Commissioner Detectives, I automatically and ordinarily assumed that any dockets to be found, or if they were at head office, would have been with the detective component. You are asked by Advocate Arens, when would that have been? You received the complaint early in November. Your response is, I will, when we do break, ask my office for a copy of the letter, but it would have been soon after the authorization of the matter. So it's no earlier than the 6th of December. We've established a date to it now.
That is correct.
You say, but I do recall having written to Lieutenant General Sintumule, and I recall her then ensuring that the dockets were received accordingly by IDEC. Up until yesterday, your testimony was that you requested these documents from Major General Kumalo, and you clarified not Dumisani Kumalo. I think you provided another name. Mbuso, thank you, Commissioner. Mbuso Kumalo. Please explain. You say from General Sintumule, you say to Major General Mbuso, who did you request these dockets from?
So at the time, Commissioners, my recollection was my letter to General Sintumule. Sorry, Chair. At the time, my recollection was my letter to General Sintumule. I had subsequently, but well after ad hoc, the investigation team advised, and in fact,
hi everyone.
that we had first written that morning.
I don't want to get too distracted, but I'm just watching the Madlanga Commission and working on a video. I've written it in the description, but I hope everyone's having a good day.
Sintumule as the Divisional Commissioner of Detectives.
Why to both?
When the letter was written to General Kumalo, it was because Adams had indicated he had opened dockets in Orlando Chair that falls under Gauteng. So we had to write to the Commissioner. And he indicated, if my memory serves me correctly, he indicated to the investigator, either it's Mr. Rapes or Mr. Perama, that the dockets were no longer with him, and that the dockets were with the inspectorate, if I recall the feedback correctly. That would be the inspectorate that we're referring to in terms of where General Jacobs was the head. I then write to the Divisional Commissioner of Detectives, Lieutenant General Sintumule, as the national custodian of the dockets. And General Sintumule facilitated the receipt of those dockets. Those dockets were then, in fact, Commissioners and Council found to be with Lieutenant General Peter Jacobs, and were then handed over.
So,
So Mr. Adams would have told you on the 6th itself, because you wrote to General Mbuso Khumalo on the 6th. But on the same day, you write to General Sintumule for the explanation that you've just given. It must mean, therefore, that after writing to General Khumalo, even before he responded to you, you were in touch with
I just need to know where my pen is.
Mr. Adams about these documents, and then he told you then that actually they are with the inspectorate. Is that how it happened?
No, Commissioner Bangwe. In his affidavit, the Section 27 referral, he initially in paragraph 1 refers to the dockets he opened in the Western Cape. And thereafter in paragraph 8, he says, a few days after I opened the 3 cases at the Cape Town police station, I decided to go to Gauteng. And I went to Orlando police station where I opened another 3 cases based on the 3 cases I had opened in, and that is where we got it from. That he had opened cases again in Gauteng.
I understand that. And unless I misunderstood you, I understood you to say to Ms. Sello that you wrote to General Khumalo requesting the dockets after you received, because you're relying on the Section 27.
Thank you, sir.
So you write to the Gauteng head, General Khumalo, to give you these dockets. This is on the 6th of December.
Correct.
Yes. But on the very same day, you write to General Sintumule now at head office, even before you get a response from General Khumalo. And I understood you to say you wrote to General Sintumule because Mr. Adams told you that the dockets are with the inspectorate. Did I understand your evidence correctly? Or did I hear it correctly?
Commissioner, we wrote to the provincial head, Major General Khumalo. He had informed the investigators that the dockets were not with him. It is on that basis that we then made the follow-up on where the dockets were. Now, I'm not sure whether it was Investigator Rapeso or Investigator Perama who subsequently found out that those dockets were with the inspectorate, which is why I then wrote on the very same day. But they had got a response that it is not with Major General Khumalo.
All right, and that response, they didn't get it from Mr. Adams. I had misheard you then.
You must have.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you on that. So you wrote to Major General Khumalo on the 6th, requesting the docket on the 6th. Major General Khumalo advised that the dockets are not with him.
He had an engagement with one of the 2 investigators. It's either Mr. Rapeso or Mr. Perama.
So pursuant to your letter, he then had an engagement.
Correct.
Who initiated that engagement? It has to be one of them because
it would have been Mr. Perama that you spoke to. But
So-
the finding out, sorry, Council.
Go ahead.
But the finding out of that the dockets were then with the inspectorate is something that was conveyed by Mr. Rapeso, the other investigator.
So I hope your council and representatives are going to keep a running list. Could you avail us that letter that you wrote to General Khumalo and any written response that you may have received there too?
Yes, I can make that letter available.
I appreciate it. Then you write to General Sintumule.
Correct, Council.
Same day, I take it the 6th.
Yes.
So can I include that letter in the pack, in the request for documents?
In fact, when we take the tier judgment, I do believe I have them with me.
Okay.
If I haven't made any notes on them, I will make them available. If I've made notes, apologies, and we'll make sure we get you clean copies. I will avail what I have.
Accepted.
If
Thank
there's
you so
anything
much.
short, we'll ask for that to be availed to yourselves.
And then, so you wrote to Major General Khumalo because of the Orlando dockets.
That is correct.
Who is his equivalent in the Western Cape? Did you write to the person with the equivalent post to now get their Western Cape dockets?
That equivalent would have been Provincial Commissioner Patekile, but there was no need to engage General Patekile, because as per Adams himself, he says, I opened the very same. So if it's the very same, we get the dockets that we got. We didn't go back to we didn't see the need to go back to the Western Cape, because he said he opened the same. He made the same allegations. Sorry, Council. In Gauteng.
Can I just get clarity on this? When IDEC was told that the dockets are with the inspectorate, did it not cross IDEC's mind that, well, if the inspectorate is already investigating these issues, then it's their mandate, we don't have to deal with this?
I would agree with you, Commissioner Khumalo, if we knew what the dockets were doing at the inspectorate. It is for that reason that I write to General Sentumule, who is the custodian of dockets. She facilitates that process. If in fact she came back to IDEC to say that we cannot facilitate those dockets from the inspectorate because there is whether it's a service delivery complaint or whatever it is that they were looking at, then we had no right to ask for those dockets.
It's slightly different. You know what the inspectorate does, so you know what their function is. And you get told that the very 4 dockets you are looking for are with the inspectorate. The first thing that would cross my mind is it means they're investigating the same thing that I'm being asked to investigate. Because inspectorate is not the local police station, or it's not the, what do they call it, the station of first, I can't remember the term that was used many times. That's not where the case is opened. So if a docket is with the inspectorate, it must be there for one reason and one reason only, to investigate what went wrong with those dockets. So as part of your thinking process, either under section 27 or 28, did it not cross your mind that, well, if the matter has been referred to the inspectorate, they have authority to investigate these issues, then we don't have to duplicate or use the same resources that they are using for that investigation?
May I respond? That if and that is why I just go back to my previous point. If in fact General Sentumula came back to indicate that the inspectorate was vested with the investigation and what that investigation was, and sorry IDEC, goodbye, you cannot get those, we would have stepped back. The inspectorate, from how I understand it, Commissioner Khumalo, and if I'm incorrect, my understanding is they were looking at a service delivery complaint. That is how I see the inspectorate, is if the rest of the police are not doing what they're supposed to be doing. It does not, of necessity, therefore, equate that they would have been looking at the allegations that Adams made in his Section 27 referral, hence the request for the docket.
You said if I'm corrected, but I assume now having seen the June 2025 report, you know that.
I now understand it.
You now understand.
Correct.
On this, can I ask this question? When Mr. Adams gives you an affidavit, the Section 27, and he says, I've laid these complaints and nothing is happening, or they're being intercepted, before you make the decision to investigate, is there a reason you don't inquire with the subs? They are your sister agency. You, at that point, I assume you know nothing. We have this inadequate Section 27 by any interpretation, by any account, it's inadequate. It contains only suspicions, but more importantly, that affidavit tells you, I have laid a complaint with the subs about these matters. Here are the docket numbers. How is it that your first step as a sister organization, you don't say to us, we've received this complaint, this affidavit, what is happening? Because then you will get an answer that we are investigating, we are trying to get hold of whatever's contained in that report. You would have gotten that answer, and you would have known to leave it, as you say, that had we known what's happening, we would have left it at that point. How is it that that's not the first thing you do? Instead of deploying resources, and I deliberately say deploying resources because you do have a complaint that you don't have adequate resources to investigate all matters that fall within your mandate that you should investigate. How is it not the first reaction to find out where the complaint has been laid before you demand the dockets, to find out, have you received this complaint? Is anything happening? Is there anything to this concern that they've been intercepted?
My first port of call, Commissioner Baloy, was I did call. I called Lieutenant General Sentumule.
After you received, before?
Before I sent a letter.
Yeah, but this is after you've now made the decision to investigate. So my question is, before you make the decision to investigate, before you say to Mr. Perumal, whatever you say to him that makes him go and speak to Mr. Khan, before you say to Ms. Ramsameh, make an application in terms of Section 28.3, include these names, before all of that, you haven't yet made the decision we are investigating. You get a complaint from, yes, a member of parliament, but he's a member of the public. For all intents and purposes, that complaint is not laid by a member of parliament because he's not representing parliament. He's a member of public who lays a complaint with you that, and the complaint, as we discussed yesterday, is my dockets have been intercepted. There's no intention to conduct any investigation. So I'm still at that point where that is the complaint. How is it that it is not the first step that you take to inquire from the SAPS? Is it so that you have these dockets? What are you doing about them before you make the decision? SAPS is doing nothing about it. Give us the dockets. We are now going to investigate this.
So, it is on that basis, Commissioner Baloy, that we wrote to General Kumalo to find out if they had the dockets. When he said they don't have the dockets, my next port of call was a telephone call to Lieutenant General Sentumule to indicate, General, we have this matter for an investigation. We are looking for the dockets. We are given to understand that they are not with Gauteng. And one of my investigators has indicated that he has since learned that the dockets are with the inspectorate. General Sentumule indicated, and this was a telephone conversation, Commissioner Baloy, she indicated that she was not aware herself that the dockets were with the inspectorate. She would find out and she would come back. When she later came back, she had facilitated then the dockets to IDAC. And I don't want to sound like a broken record, Commissioner Baloy, but I repeat that had she at that stage said, I am sorry, ID, these are with the inspectorate for a very specific purpose, based on the points that Commissioner Kumalo has made, IDAC would not have asked for those dockets.
Maybe the problem lies with me. Maybe I'm not articulate enough. I don't understand why you don't understand my question. My question is, before you get to the point where you are now demanding or asking for the dockets, because now you're in investigation mode, so you're taking the dockets from the SAP. So we don't get to, General Sentumule could have said to you, sorry, I can't give them to you. You don't arrive there yet on my question.
Okay.
My question is, when you get the Section 27, so you receive it in November. right? We've established that, not in December. You received it in November. My question is, when you receive the Section 27, which tells you, I have made a complaint, and now we know you had also received a letter from the minister's office. So in November already, you know that Mr. Adams has laid complaints with the SAPS in November. At that point, you haven't yet made a decision to investigate. You received this affidavit. My question is at that point.
Okay.
Let's assume you received it on the 21st of November, as date of that affidavit, and you start actioning it on the 22nd of November. So we are on the 27th of November. My question is, on the 22nd of November, why is it that your first step is arising from this affidavit is to call whether General Kumalo, whether General Patekile, whether General Sintumule, to say there is a complaint that has been laid with the SAPS and the dockets have gone missing according to the complainant. Are you aware of this complaint and are you acting on it? Why is it that's not what you do first? In fact, what you do is you go into full investigation mode, and the next thing you do, you're demanding or you're taking the dockets. So I'm not yet there. I'm talking about your first move on these.
It would have been, at the time, would have been based on the fact that Mr. Adams makes the submission that he knows that his dockets would not be dealt with and or the cases would disappear. And I do take your point that the Section 27, as the commissioners now see it, is inadequate. At the time we base our actions on what was on the Section 27. And on the 27, there are allegations being made against the police in terms of criminal allegations, as well as allegations that the dockets would disappear as they did in Cape Town. And it is on that basis that I make that call, Commissioner Baloy.
So you unquestioningly just accepted his say so. He says to you in the affidavit, my dockets have disappeared, they've been intercepted, and you go into investigation mode. You don't question why would he say that. Let me verify that indeed nothing is being done about them. You say it's the basis of what he says. So whatever he says, you just acted on that, because that's what it is. He said so, and you went into investigation mode on that basis.
That is correct, Commissioner.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Please help me here if you can, Advocate. At some point on the 6th of December, you are aware that the dockets referred to in the complaint are with the inspectorate, correct?
Correct.
I assume that you are aware of the function or what the function was of the inspectorate, that it plays a specific role, and that perhaps, in general, it's empowered to investigate service complaints against SAPS members.
Correct.
So it's acting in terms of law to have those dockets and to investigate, as you have now subsequently found they were doing, regarding the service complaints.
Correct.
Okay. Now, can you then point me to the legislation or any prescript that then gives IDEC the authority to dispossess the inspectorate of those dockets while that investigation is ongoing? What gave IDEC authority to demand those dockets?
IDEC didn't intend to dispossess the inspectorate of those dockets. What IDEC did is, acting upon the Section 27 and the subsequent authorization, IDEC sought to determine where those dockets were.
Yes.
And again, I repeat that if, in fact, those dockets could not be made available to IDEC, then that would have ceased that matter. Because for me, counsel, my interpretation is the inspector is dealing with a service delivery complaint. IDEC has allegations of criminality together with the allegations by Adams that my dockets will disappear, etc. It is on that basis that we approached the police. I can take it no further than if we were told that the inspectorate cannot release those dockets, then that is where it would have had to end. We have no authority, and we were merely making a request.
Yes.
Which request did not have to be acceded to, counsel. The request could easily have been denied for access to those dockets.
Now, we know that you addressed a letter to,
Sorry, but you're conducting an investigation, so you could have demanded to them. You do have the legal means to, in the course of an investigation, to demand access to documents, no?
Correct. If we had to, we would have had to subpoena them through the National Commissioner, and that, unfortunately, is not the way to do the business. And what we could have done, had we not been given access to those original dockets, would have been to request copies of the dockets, so that we could then look into those allegations.
Yes. No, I was just clarifying, just in case the impression you leave us with is that, well, SAPS could have refused with these dockets, and that would have been the end of it. And I'm just trying to make sure that's not what you're seeking to convey. Right, thank you.
Correct. We could have requested copies. That has been practiced, not just in
I never know where my
over the
spectacles
years,
are either.
And the police
Never
have
know where
been
my
able to
spectacles
remove
are.
copies of the dockets.
Hello?
I'm making a different point. The point I'm making is, in the course of investigation, we have the power.
How are we doing?
To obtain documents, and that would have included these dockets.
You know, when
if
people
SAPS had
notice
said
that
to
you're
you,
talking to
if
them
SAPS
and they
had
get
said
the
to you,
heck out of here.
because you're in full mode of investigation, you did have the power and the means to get them legally.
Correct.
Thank you.
and now you get some time in the course of the 6th of December, you become aware there with the inspectorate. Earlier you said your first letter was to General Kumalo. The second letter was to General Sintumule. Now you know they're with the inspectorate. And the Lieutenant General Jacobs does not even have a courtesy of your letter requesting the documents. You know where they are now. But instead, one of your investigators is off to the inspectorate to go demand these documents, these dockets, or to demand perhaps is too strong a word, to obtain these documents. Why couldn't you have addressed a letter to Lieutenant General Jacobs requesting copies, accepting that he has those dockets because he too is discharging a particular statutory duty? Because all you ever wanted were the content of the docket. My logic dictates that you would have asked him, can I have copies of these dockets? I understand that they are with you, the inspectorate who is looking into a service delivery complaint. Why couldn't you do that?
I worked through the channel that we do when we request dockets, which would have been the Divisional Commissioner Detectives. However, I need to go through MK15. I do recall that there were people in the office of General Jacobs who indicated that the letters both to Generals Kumalo and Sentumule had been shown to the office of General Jacobs in order to indicate that a request had been made for those dockets.
Okay.
And that he then had an engagement, sorry, Council.
No, so we'll look at that during tea, it's fine.
Okay.
Those documents. Now, my question was slightly different. You, as the head of one institution, you now have located the documents you require for your investigation. I would have thought it's appropriate that you once again, at that level, address yourself to the head of that institution to say it has now come to our knowledge this. May you kindly provide copies. I just point out that you failed to do so. I don't understand why.
I take your point. I reiterate, I worked through the channels we do in obtaining dockets, which would be the Divisional Commissioner of Detectives.
So now we know that on the 6th of October, IDEC, you received the dockets.
We requested them on the 6th of December.
Yes.
They were received on the 9th of December, the 6th having been a Friday, Commissioners.
Okay,
And they were put together and given to us on the 9th.
9th of December. Are you able to recall what light they shared on, remember we still have that highly deficient Section 27 referral. Are you able to recall what light they shared on that referral?
The dockets.
Yes.
The dockets, when they were received by Investigator Rapeso.
Yes.
Investigator Rapeso then shared those dockets with Advocate Ramsamy, who already had the 27. And she appraised those dockets together with the Section 27.
So
I did not peruse the dockets, Commissioners.
So you don't know whether they added any value to the Section 27?
I'm not aware. At that time, if they added value, except maybe this, if I could give this last response, I can see that we should go into an adjournment, is what did happen later on in January is that Mr. Rapeso, Advocate Ramsamy, and Mr. Perumal, after having gone through those dockets, together with the Section 27, then had further engagements with Mr. Adams in order to amplify or supplement the statements that were in the docket, which I guess by interpretation means they were not up to standard or sufficient.
Were those, I assume those were what, A1 statements in each one of the dockets?
Correct.
On your understanding, were they any better than the Section 27 referral affidavit?
Of my personal knowledge, I cannot say, but from feedback from the prosecutors and the investigators, they were not substantial. And it was for that reason that there was that January engagement.
Resulting in the
supplementary affidavits for each of the matters.
Thank you.
For Chair, may I close this little topic? And in fact, if you go to MK15 at page 295, that is part of a document from legal services, SAPS legal services. It starts at 293. I'm particularly interested in 295, paragraph 4. And you say you never became appraised of the contents of the dockets. So at paragraph 4, the author of that document, Lieutenant General Kamani, states, only the complainant's A1 statements are contained in the 6 dockets. No other evidence is contained in the dockets. The lack of location information makes it impossible to determine proper jurisdiction at this stage. Let's jump ahead to 296. At paragraph 13, the current information contained in the dockets is scanty and too vague to formulate charges against any suspects. As a result, legal services is unable to confirm that the required elements of any offense are contained in the dockets. In light of your admission that you never saw the contents of the dockets, you can't take issue with these findings. You have to accept them.
I cannot take issue with these findings. Safe to say, when he makes these findings, he didn't have a Section 27.
No, it is I assume it's a he. His analysis of the contents of the docket. That's all I'm interested in. So as far as he's concerned,
I can't take issue with his analysis, Chair.
But based on the engagement we had yesterday, the Section 27 referral affidavit could not possibly have made any difference even if the writer of this legal report had sight of it. It would not have made any difference. I say that because when I engaged you yesterday, you accepted that there was nothing there. Do you accept that?
I accept the point.
Thank you.
thank you, Chair. might this be an opportune time for a chair adjournment?
Let's resume at 11:40. Let's adjourn.
Thank you, Chair.
Hello. Huzzah! I love to get a thought out in one piece. I love it. 45 minutes I've been going. I think maybe an hour. When are we coming back from tea, guys? Hello?
Yes, Ms.
Thank you, Commissioner Chair.
What do we put away? We still have the transcript, we have file 3, we have many files. What do we put away?
Let's put away file 3, not too far. Please don't put it very far. And file 1.
So
Exhibit
is it
file 1,
3
3 and 1 for now, yes. And I think the transcript is in 3 as well, so.
Then the MK, what do we do with the MK? Do we
Oh, no, we keep the MK. Thank you, Commissioner Kumalo. You recall, Advocate Johnson, when we started yesterday, we started with the requirements of Section 27 of the NPE Act, the referral affidavit.
Correct.
And you indicated to the commissioners that where the affidavit is deficient, it is standard practice that you engage the person who made the referral to get clarity. Is it safe to assume that you do so to enable you to take a decision whether or not to proceed? You can't take a decision at a particular time because of the deficiencies that lie in the affidavit. And the engagement with the referee would then, I take it, enable you to look at what you've now collated holistically and say, yes, I have a basis to authorize an investigation. Would I be correct in that conclusion?
That is correct.
Now,
Council, before you proceed, I just respond to something, Chair, a request that I had made prior to tea. There is no need. I take the points that were raised by Commissioner Baloy, and I leave it where it is in terms of whether or not I should still look at the application for the Section 2813.
Thank you, Advocate Johnson.
thank you, Chair. Thank you, Advocate Johnson. So then we know by December the 6th, 9th, apologies, by December the 9th, somebody in the IDEC team now has the dockets, and we assume that they would have read those dockets in the same manner that the legal services of SAPS did and arrived at the same conclusion. That's an assumption on my part. I don't see a basis on which they would arrive at a different conclusion. Would that be a fair
It makes sense, yes.
Yes. So, according to the docket, as far as we know, the next piece of information that comes in is Mr. Adams's A1 statement, which is the first document in this inquiry file. And that you will find at Exhibit 1, page 683. Exhibit 1, Exhibit File 1, and
File 3.
File 3. My apologies, I mixed up my files. And unfortunately, we will have to file 8 close by. But I'll not call it immediately. They'll assist you with that file, advocates. Do you need to? Yes, but not immediately. We'll get to it shortly. So we know that what we have at page 683 of the exhibit bundle is this statement by Mr. Fadiel Adams, which is dated the 6th of January 25. If you look at 684, and it was commissioned by Dylan Perumal, that is Chief Perumal, correct? At least that's what...
That is what I see, yes.
Yes, Colonel Padiachi told us. Now, if we go to paragraphs 2 and 3, my assessment is this is the additional information the investigators obtained from Mr. Adams. Now, if we look at paragraph 2, he says in early October 24, he received information anonymously surrounding alleged fraud and corruption being perpetrated within the Division Crime Intelligence of the South African Police Service. The allegation related to a certain high-ranking police official being involved in manipulating promotional and security vetting processes to ensure benefit a civilian person who worked for BMW South Africa before being appointed as a brigadier in CI. She apparently has no policing experience and no management experience, and was appointed as the head of the technical support services. At 3, then he indicates that he was informed that there were several highly skilled and qualified senior police officers who applied for the post but were overlooked by the CI management, who favored Mrs. Mukwela over them. The generals involved are Kumalo, CI head Lushaba, CI, Madondo, CI, Ligalagala, CI, amongst others. That is the totality of that statement.
I see that.
Would I be correct to assume that at this juncture, now that the referee has been given an opportunity to amplify their original Section 27 affidavit, this would be the point to consider what you have on the table and to determine whether a case has been made out for an investigation?
That would be correct.
Now, considering a highly deficient Section 27 referral, dockets that say almost nothing from the perspective of determining whether or not the an offense has been committed, and if so, by whom. Read with the contents of this statement, do you think the referral even gets anywhere close to complying with Section 27?
Sorry, apologies, Commissioners. I only see the statement now, so if you'll just grant me a moment.
Take your time.
Council, in my assessment of this reading, together with the section 27, it creates a sufficient enough basis for an investigation to go forward.
And I take it to say so because, unlike with the original affidavit, we now have the ground upon which the suspicions are based.
That is correct.
And the grounds you find where in the statement?
They do refer then to the allegations of fraud and corruption. They say where, they say what the allegation is. The allegation related to certain high-ranking officials being involved in manipulating promotional and security vetting processes to unduly benefit a civilian person who worked for BMW South Africa before being appointed as a brigadier. She apparently has no policing experience, no management experience, and was appointed. And paragraph 3 going on to say that there were several highly skilled and qualified police officials who applied for the post and were over